Centering a design on a cap can be a little bit tricky. You're dealing with a curved surface, you're dealing with the difference in how I hooped versus what the software thinks I did, and how do I kind of line that up. If it looks perfect on screen, but I didn't hoop absolutely perfectly and I have the exact right size hat, then it's not going to look good on the cap. And we don't really care what it looks like on screen. We care more what it looks like on the cap. To start, let's deal with centering things up and down, vertically. Where on this cap is that going to sew vertically, and where is that going to fall on the head? And that kind of deals with a little bit the profile of the cap. To make that a little bit easier to kind of see, I use just strips of, right now I have cardstock, it makes it easier for camera, but you can use just a piece of paper or even a piece of tape to make this work for you at home. To kind of figure out where I want to place this, I'm going to slide this piece of paper in, and I kind of tuck it right into that little strap. And I watch where this comes off, and then where it really, you can see it start kind of right here, where it really starts to come off the head. Now, I'm not, a little bit of a curve, I'm not super concerned, but I'm really going to start to look right about here where it really starts to come down. And this is a little bit of a judgment. And I'm going to mark that. So let's say right about there. So I'm going to mark that. To find that halfway point, I'm going to fold this paper to that line, fold it right in half, and that's my center point. I am going to mark this with a pencil to make it a little bit easier to see when it's on the machine though, and I'm going to put that right back into place. Now I have blacked out my LEDs on my machine to make the laser a little bit easier to see, but what I'm going to do is shine that laser, and then I'm pressing just the laser key when I do this. Now I'm going to move the hoop in that direction, so I'm going to use the hoop and the arrow keys, and I'm going to move it so that that laser just lines up on that line, and that's what I'm looking for. In looking at my software, as long as I'm inside those dotted lines, I'm inside that hoop limit, it hasn't gone solid, I'm good. I'm going to go ahead and remove this paper now, we don't need it. Let's deal with moving left to right. So vertical placement now has been set, and it's set for this style of cap. If I change styles of caps, then I may need to evaluate that again. But left and right, unless you are hooping perfectly and completely consistently, which I never do, you will need to adjust that in between caps. So you load a new cap on there, you'll look at it, you'll adjust it, you'll go. Up and down you don't have to worry about anymore, you've got it set, but you do need to deal with left and right. And you've got a really nice placement here with this center seam because this is a 6-panel cap, it's got that center seam going right down the middle. I know where to place it. So how do I figure out where that is using the hoop and the left and right arrows? Well, I line up as best I can straight on the machine. I look down the machine. Now, you guys do have a laser. So if I use the hoop and the left or right arrows to line that laser up right on that seam, that looks pretty good. If I double check it, I can press the E-stop and then reach up inside and rotate that Z shaft and bring that down. Now that's with the grabber out, but you can see that I kind of missed. Let me release that E-stop. If I look at where that laser hits, it's right on there. Now here's the problem. The laser is located over to the right and comes off at an angle, aiming down towards the hole in the needle plate. If I shine that laser and I look, as I bring the piece of paper up, you can see that laser gets farther to the right. So the higher off the needle plate you get, the farther to the right that laser is. So for up and down, the laser works. For left and right, I'm going to want to line up to the needle. So I need to change my perspective. So what I'll do is I'll line up on the machine, look down my active needle. That active needle is the one with the presser foot behind it, and I will have it line up to this seam. So I'll use that left and right arrow with the hoop key to move until that is lined up, and I'm far less concerned with what that laser looks like. See how that laser is now off that seam? I don't really care about the laser right now, I more care about that needle. So to double check, I'm going to press the E-stop, going to reach up inside and lower that needle with that Z shaft, and if you'll notice, it just pierces that seam perfectly. So I know that this is centered, so I'm going to release that e-stop. The machine's going to go back to head up. What I can do right now is I can look at where that laser hits this cap, and it will hit this style of cap there every time. So this is just, you know, a millimeter or two over from the seam. So if I want to, I can now use the laser, just I have to know to line up just a little bit over, or I can square up to the machine and line up with that active needle. Now that I have squared up on this and I've made sure that it's centered left and right, I know that it's centered up and down now as well. I can trace it, I can sew it. If you did drop the needle and then release e-stop to bring it back up, just be aware that you may need to rethread your needle. Also, in looking at the software, if you notice that it doesn't look centered, remember, that's okay, that's okay. I'm more concerned that it's centered on this cap. Only if you hoop absolutely perfectly will it show centered on screen and on the cap. So don't worry about that. Just make sure it's where you want it to be, trace it, and sew it.